Welcome back, guys. Thanks for joining me for another beer related video. Not so much of a review this one, but more of a comparison. And we are heading over to that machine there with the beer that is in it, and we are going to do a comparison to the bottled version. And the beer we are on about, if you can't see that, is Cruzcampo, that fantastic Spanish beer that has now got a British passport, if you like, because it's probably nothing to do with Spain right now apart from the name. So we're going to be taking a look at the Blade version of Cruzcampo, coming in at 4.4%, and we are going to compare it to the bottled version, which is 4.4%, exactly the same beer if you like, but one is in keg form and one is bottle. Now the keg comes in at £39.90 for 14 official pints, if you like, which would probably be the equivalent. I'm going to guess 6.6 is 10, probably be the equivalent of about 12 of these. And if you get these on offer, the bottles, I think you're going to pay £2.50. So if you want to work that out, 25, that's coming in at about 30 quid. So the keg is coming in about a 10 or more. I didn't pay £39.90. When I reviewed that keg, I had a £12 discount code. That is the only reason I picked it up, because I was getting it a bit cheaper. So in this case, that keg actually works out probably cheaper than the bottle, but I think these are normally about £2.60, £2.75 maybe, if you buy them on their own. I'm not sure, but we're going to do a comparison. Now, I have reviewed this before. Didn't think it was up to much when I reviewed it at the time. Recently reviewed the Blade Keg. There's pluses about it in a funny kind of way, but actual beer-wise, it's pretty shit. So, we're going to crack on. Get on with these two. Now the Blade is set at 2 degrees. You can't do nothing about that. That's come out my fridge at about 4 degrees. So I'm going to get a bottle opener. We're going to pour the bottled one. In fact, we'll pour the keg one. So it will be a little bit noisy for a little bit, but we'll pour the keg one because chances are that head is going to last better than the bottle. And this has just been rinsed as well, so it may well kill the head off just a touch. I knew I wasn't going to be a big fan of this beer, so trying to get through this keg is going to be hard work. So I'll have to try and do as many sort of different things I can with it. There we go. Beer in a glass. There we go. That's that one. Now I'll get my chair comfy. That will stop any minute. And we'll crack the old Cruzcampo open now. Bottle. And we'll see what we get with this one. Ooh, you definitely get that nasty smell to it. Which is something you're not hit with, to be honest, out of the keg, obviously. But it doesn't smell particularly fantastic. So, that certainly has a lot more carbonation, and it certainly has a more compact head. Now, in the defense of this one, the glass was wet, and I do find if you use a wet glass, you do get big spacious bubbles on the head. It's got to be said, if that was a wet glass as well, that would have done exactly the same. It doesn't look particularly inspiring. Less carbonation. Let's have a look at the colour of the beers, and they are identical, which is exactly what you'd expect. But my word, look at the carbonation going up on that one. And they're both exactly the same glasses. And that does look a little bit flat, and I'm going to say that is probably the wet glass that has killed that off. Heads are pretty much very similar now. Obviously the bottle one is still going, more nucleation and poured later. That one isn't. So I'm going to go straight in with the bottled one. That little bit of a nasty smell that you get from some bottles, isn't it? Malty, grainy, syrupy, and a little bit of a nasty note. Nothing else going on in it. There's nothing goes on in this beer, to be honest. It didn't go on in this beer when I reviewed this. So let's have a sniff of the Blade Keg. If I did, Have I said perfect draft? It's the Blade. Apologies if I have said the perfect draft before. It is the Blade. Let's have a sniff. Nothing really. But what you don't get, the first thing I notice is you don't get that nasty sort of smell that you're getting with the bottle one. A very slight subtle malt grayness. It's not there so much as the bottle. Absolutely none of that nastiness. And maybe a slight sweet edge. So look-wise, I'm going to say look-wise, I'm going to call it 50-50 just because that glass was wet and I have no doubt that has killed the head on that. But we'll say look-wise the same. On the nose, I'm putting the Keg one down to smell much better just because it hasn't got that nastiness, though it is a little bit less aromatic, shall we say. So let's go in with a taste. Cruzcampo. I don't have two Cruzcampo glasses, that's why I've stuck them in the Mal ones. So let's go in, bottled Cruzcampo, Sevilla. More like fucking Wolverhampton, that's what it's more like. Let's have a taste. Let's go in again. Okay, I've got a feeling the body on the Blade one is going to be heavier. Definitely a lot more carbonation in there than what I remember from the other day of drinking that one. There is a little bit of that nastiness about it. Not so much of a syrupy sweetness, but more like a sugary sort of sweetness. It's hard to describe it. It's a different sort of sweetness. Anyway, let's go in. Blade Cruzcampo. Look at that. Looks absolutely shocking now, doesn't it? But like I say, put that down to the glass. Very little carbonation. Let's dive in. A much cleaner taste, if you like, which doesn't surprise me. I mean, we do these comparisons, keg and bottle, you know there's going to be a difference. Weight of the beer is better, a lot more watery, the bottle one. More weight to this. It's a shame that was a wet glass, because trying to create that head certainly adds a bit more weight to the beer and a bit more smoothness. Carbonation is better than the bottle, but it could still do with a bit more. And like I say, that may well be the glass. Maybe I haven't cleaned that properly. I don't know. Let's go back to the bottle. Don't mind me just being nosy at the neighbours. Oh yeah. Jesus, I tell you what, when you go from that to the Keg one, it doesn't feel like much of a difference. And then you go from that Keg one back to the bottle and they're a world apart. You know, the Keg, this beer is a boring beer. It's a plain, boring, bland beer. But as soon as you go back to that bottle, it's got that nasty taste to it. It's very thin. Pardon me. Oh, that's horrible. I can't believe I'm saying that. That's actually fucking worse than the Keg. That is horrible. It's overcarbonated, thinner, and it's got that typical nasty sort of Burton-on-Trent, Wolverhampton taste to it. Is it metallic? Maybe a bit of metallicness in there, but yeah, it's just got an awful nasty taste to it. Let's give this another go. Having to work hard with this beer. Yeah. A world apart, really, if I'm honest. And it always seems to be the same. Kegs always have that fresher, less nasty taste in them. And it's no different with this. Although I'm finding it hard to get rid of that nasty taste from there, drinking that. It's just sort of lingering, that nastiness on the back. But yeah, I mean, for me, a world apart. They feel like totally different beers. And again, I've said that before. Keg and bottles can feel like totally different beers. Now, the beer is not a great beer. In bottle or in keg, it is not a great beer. But in bottle, I can't believe when I reviewed it, I was actually half kind to it. That's fucking awful. That is terrible. I'm not even going to pour the rest of that in there because I won't be drinking that. But the keg, for a shit beer, a lot more drinkable. Nothing going on in either beer apart from a little bit of malty grainness, and the sweetness in that always feels different to keg. Nothing going on in the beer. They're boring, but if you do like Cruzcampo, and that's up to you, can't see why, but if you do like it, you know, and if you're thinking about getting a Blade, you're definitely going to get the best experience of Cruzcampo through the Blade. And I reckon if you tried that against a bottle, you definitely wouldn't touch a bottle again. So for me, the winner out of Cruzcampo bottle and the Heineken Blade Cruzcampo, the obvious winner, Cruzcampo out the Blade. Still a shit beer, but much better. And that's all I've got to say about that. So there you go. There's my comparison of these two. Them are going down the sink because that's awful. That I'm going to drink because I paid a bit more for it. Or I probably didn't. I'm going to end it there. If you like Cruzcampo, if you've tried it out of bottle and you've tried it out of keg, let me know your thoughts. And that's that. So we may well be in the new year by the time this goes up. I'm not sure. If we're not in the new year, have a great new year. A big thank you to everyone that's watched as well throughout the year. And a big thank you to everyone that's subbed. Look after yourselves. And I will see you again soon on another one. Cheers.